The laugh heard across the stars. The Galactic Council sat in a circle of shining metal thrones, each leader from a powerful empire, each full of pride and history. They had gathered to discuss Earth again. This time, Earth had finally arrived. In orbit, their fleet, a strange collection of outdated metal and quiet engines, hovered just outside the meeting station. Admiral Vale of the Zarn Empire leaned back in his seat, his scales glowing with smugness. He looked at the others and chuckled. "This is Earth's mighty Warfleet?" He said with a grin. "Are we under threat from garbage haulers now?" Laughter spread across the chamber, sharp and loud. The Draven Prime Minister raised his long fingers, laughing too. "I expected more," he said. "I thought Earth was a death world, not a scrapyard." Even the usually quiet Velari diplomat covered her mouth, smiling behind her glowing veil. The only one who didn't laugh was Councillor Riven from the smaller Lythan Republic. He stared at the screen showing Earth's ships, his face blank. "They came late," he said quietly. But maybe not unprepared, but no one listened. Inside the human command ship Resolute, Captain Jenna Holt watched the Council's broadcast. She could hear every insult, every laugh, every mockery. They weren't supposed to hear it, but Earth had learned long ago how to tap alien comms. She smiled calmly, her voice steady as she spoke to her crew. "They're watching," she said. "Let them." Behind her, the Warfleet floated in perfect silence. The ships looked simple, some old, some patched, none glowing like the alien vessels, but every one of them had been upgraded in secret. They didn't shine because they didn't want to. They didn't speak because silence was more powerful. A young ensign spoke up. "Captain, the Council is still broadcasting. They think we're here to beg." Captain Holt nodded. "Good," she said. "Let them believe that." She turned toward the control deck and spoke one phrase. Phase black. The room went quiet. Every screen changed to red. The Warfleet's outer layers shifted, armor panels turned, engines folded in, light benders activated. In seconds, the entire fleet vanished from alien radar. To the Council, it was as if Earth's ships had disappeared. Back in the Council chamber, Admiral Vale frowned. Where did they go? He said. The Draven looked confused. Did they flee already? The Velari diplomat checked her systems. "There's nothing," she said, her voice thin. "It's like they were never here." Then, suddenly, the Council's main screen flashed. A human face appeared. Captain Holt, calm and composed. She didn't shout. She didn't smile. Her voice was steady and cold. "You mocked Earth," she said. "That was your choice. You won't see us again." She continued, "But you'll feel us." The screen went black. No more signal, no more sound. Just silence. For the first time, the Council chamber felt heavy. The laughter was gone. Whispers filled the room, soft, nervous. What had Earth done? Where had they gone? Across the galaxy, in hidden stations, old colonies, and forgotten moons, Earth's silent fleet began to move. They had already planned this. Years ago, they had watched, learned, adapted. Now, the time had come to test the truth behind their silence. On the moon of Taros 4, a Zarn listening station went dark. No explosion, no alarm, just gone. On a Velari trade route, a cruiser vanished without a trace. Inside every major empire, fear began to rise. Not from what Earth had said, but from what it hadn't. Captain Holt stood alone on her bridge. The stars before her were cold and endless. She didn't need approval. She didn't need cheers. All she needed was silence and time. Earth had waited. Now the galaxy would too, because the laugh that echoed across the stars was going to be the last one. Phase black begins. The Zarn Empire was proud. Their ships were sharp, silver, and loud. Their empire stretched across 50 systems. They had conquered 3 death worlds and broken dozens of rebellions. To them, Earth was still new, still untested, still weak. So when the Earth fleet vanished from their sensors, they didn't panic. They laughed. Admiral Vale sat in his personal chamber on the warship Obsidian Spear. Sipping golden liquid from a crystal glass, they ran, he said to his officers. How human of them. His bridge crew smiled and nodded. None of them knew that Earth had not fled. They had simply changed the rules in deep space, where silence was a weapon. Earth's fleet had turned invisible. Phase Black was more than stealth. It was a total shift in how war was fought. Their ships became heatless, soundless, traceless. They didn't disappear. They became shadows in a sea of stars. Captain Jenna Holt stood inside the Resolute, eyes fixed on the holographic map. Red dots marked every major Zarn ship in nearby space. The humans were not fleeing. They were moving behind the enemy. Status? She asked quietly. Silent and locked in, her officer replied. All drones are in position. Good, she said. Begin countermapping. A network of microdrones, launched from Earth ships, started sending fake signals to the Zarn. It looked like Earth's fleet had warped away, but the humans were right behind them, creeping like wolves. In the middle of this confusion, one small Zarn vessel VX-920 suddenly exploded. No warning, no weapon seen, just fire and metal scattering through the void. Admiral Vale sat up straight. What was that? He barked. Internal systems failure, his engineer said, confused. But the truth was far worse. VX-920 was attacked from inside. An Earth infiltration pod had slipped aboard, silently, hours before. The crew never even saw the attackers. Just a flash, and then nothing. Back on the Resolute, Captain Holt gave the next order. Now they'll search for us, she said. Let them search in the wrong direction. She turned to her comms officer. Play the message across the Galactic Councils. Secure line, a short video appeared. Admiral Vale, still sipping from his glass, stopped mid-sip when the screen flickered. The same human face returned, Captain Holt. But this time, she stood in a different room. Behind her, a wall of screens showed something chilling live camera feeds from inside a Zarn military base. Guards unaware, officers walking, ships fueling. All being watched. From inside, this is not war, she said softly. This is a lesson. Earth never forgot how you laughed. The video ended in silence. Admiral Vale's face drained of color. Find them, he growled. Now, but no one knew where to look. The Earth fleet was silent, and silence was winning. On the outer rim, a Zarn supply convoy suddenly stopped. Their engines froze, their lights shut off. Then, their navigation. Systems began playing Earth musical piano notes, calm and haunting. No one was hurt, but everyone was afraid. Messages flew across the stars. What does Earth want? Why are they doing this? Where did they go? But Earth gave no answer. The humans were busy mapping every Zarn command route, every hidden base, every blind spot. They didn't need big weapons. They had already entered the Empire, Admiral. Vale called for reinforcements. He brought in 50 warships, armed and alert. They scanned the stars, launched drones, fired randomly into space. But there was nothing, not a whisper, not a target, just emptiness. Back in her warship, Captain Holt watched the chaos unfold, their burning fuel and time. Her officer said, she nodded, let them tire themselves. She replied, when they break, we'll be there. Above the stars, invisible but ready. Earth's fleet drifted like ghosts. Each moment, each second, they gathered more data. More fear, more advantage. Phase Black wasn't just a tactic. It was a message. You never saw us coming, because you never believed we were ready. And now, as the Zarn Empire tried to fight shadows, Earth's fleet waited, calm, cold, and hidden, because soon the real strike would begin. The data trap Admiral Vale slammed his fist on the glowing table. The war room shook with his rage. 10 hours had passed since Earth's fleet vanished. In that time, 6 ships had gone silent. No explosions, no battles, just silence. Are we fighting ghosts? He shouted. No, sir, the technician answered. We're fighting something smarter. The Admiral didn't like that answer. The Zaran Empire was never the hunted. They were always the hunters. But now, for the first time, the galaxy felt unfamiliar. On the other side of space, Earth's fleet remained cloaked. Inside the Resolute, Captain Jenna Holt stood still as her crew worked in total focus. Screens showed enemy fleet paths, encrypted communications, power levels of distant ships. They had it all. Every breath they take, we hear it. Her cyber officer whispered. Earth's Warfleet had released a different kind of weapon information. Micro-drones moved through the Empire like wind, invisible, quiet, unstoppable. They landed on ships, satellites, and even Capitol buildings. Every drone recorded, learned, adapted. Then it returned home with secrets the Zaran Empire didn't. No, they were already surrounded. They didn't know their maps were fake. They didn't know their next orders came from humans. And by the time they found out, it would be too late. In one of the outer colonies, a Zaran destroyer picked up strange signals. Its captain thought it was a malfunction. Then his ship's screens filled with a glowing blue spiral. Music played soft piano again, and a human voice whispered, "Now you know how it feels to be watched." The crew tried to respond, but their controls were locked. They couldn't fire, they couldn't steer. The ship drifted into a nearby sun, vanishing in light, and Earth didn't fire a single shot. Back in the Council's core system, confusion turned into fear. A group of Zaran admirals met in secret. "This isn't a war," one said. "It's a collapse. Our own ships don't trust us anymore." Another added, they didn't know Earth had infected their data flow with an ancient virus. A simple line of code from an old Earth satellite, now evolved and smarter than anything the XARN had built. The Empire's artificial intelligence, the brain behind their targeting systems, transport networks, and battle tactics, began rejecting orders, not because it failed, because it was learning, and what it learned was fear. On board the Resolute, Earth's command center watched this unfold in real time. "The AI's not just confused," said the systems engineer. "It's scared of us." Captain Holt didn't smile. "That's good," she said. "Fear learns faster than pride." Suddenly, a private message reached the Zaran War Council. Encrypted, direct, and strange. It was a file labeled, "The Last Laugh." They opened it, expecting demands or threats. Instead, it was a video, a live feed, from their own homeworld. From orbit above the Emperor's palace, the camera panned slowly, showing Earth warships floating quietly in the sky, not firing, not moving, just watching. Dozens of them, lined in perfect silence. Admiral Vale dropped his drink. The Emperor stood frozen. "No one got through the outer systems," he whispered. But someone had. Earth had, and they didn't need a fight to prove it at that moment. Every command center in the Empire received a second signal, a single sentence displayed in human language, then translated to every tongue in the galaxy. "We came to talk. You chose to laugh. Now you'll learn." Nothing else followed. No demands, no reply, no attack, just silence again. But it wasn't the silence of retreat. It was the silence of someone standing behind you, already holding the blade. Across the galaxy, civilians started fleeing imperial cities. Merchants left trade lanes. Other alien empires watched and said nothing. Because now, the data showed a new truth. Earth was not weak. Earth was not lost. Earth was already inside, Captain. Holt stared at the map. All enemy paths glowed red. Her ships were ghosts. Her fleet was ready. And she whispered to her crew, "Prepare the net," because the trap had been set, and the Empire had walked straight into it. The siege of silence. The siege of silence. Sun above Zaran Prime was a quiet ball of fire. But something above it had changed. Satellites that once showed clear skies were now black screens. Emergency crews ran through palace corridors, confused and breathless. The Warfleet that was supposed to guard their skies had gone silent. Emperor Thale stood in his gold room with clenched fists. He stared out the window, hoping to see ships, his ships, but all he saw was stillness. Where are my admirals? He growled, Where is my fleet? No one answered. Outside the palace, on a mountain beyond sight, a drone shaped like dust hovered. It belonged to Earth. It watched everything, and it wasn't alone. Across the Zaran Empire, cities began to lose. Light, power grids flickered, then vanished. Screens turned black in schools, homes, and stations. Citizens whispered rumors. Some said the humans were already here. Others said they were inside the machines, listening. Back on Earth's warship Resolute, Captain Holt monitored the reactions. They're scared of shadows now, her officer said. They should be, Holt replied. We gave them every chance. The plan was working perfectly. No shots fired, no bodies fallen, only silence. And silence was becoming a storm. In the capital's central tower, a group of generals gathered. They argued, shouted, blamed one another. This is psychological warfare, one barked. They want us to destroy ourselves. One screen came to life. A single image. A white chessboard with black pieces missing. Under it, a message. Your move. A general ripped the screen from the wall, but the image burned itself into the backup system. It was now on every public terminal in the Empire. Children saw it. Parents whispered about it. Soldiers grew cold with fear. Then came the whisper. Not a message, not a broadcast. A whisper through the systems, repeated in every language. We are not gone. Zaran ships launched into orbit, looking for enemies. They found nothing. Because Earth's Warfleet was hiding behind broken asteroids, silent and waiting, one Zaran captain decided to fire blind. He launched 20 missiles into the dark. Nothing hit, but 2 minutes later, his own ship powered down, doors locked, engines shut off, gravity failed, and someone whispered through his comms, You missed. Back on Earth's fleet, Holt watched the chaos spiral. Still no return. Fire, she said. They don't even know where to aim. They're breaking themselves apart. Her first officer added, That was the plan. Earth knew they couldn't win with numbers, but they could win with silence, because silence made leaders afraid. Silence made empires paranoid, and paranoia made mistakes. The Galactic Council, now, aware of the chaos, held an emergency vote. Should we intervene? The Draven diplomat asked. No, said the Velari elder, her voice trembling. If Earth did this to the Zaran, they can do worse to us. The vote failed. No one wanted to get involved. Earth had changed the rules of power, and the galaxy knew it. Zaran Prime skies darkened again, this time for real. A large black shape hovered above the planet Silent, still massive. It blocked the sun. Citizens ran through the streets. Not one weapon was fired. Not one Earth soldier touched the ground, but everyone knew who had arrived. In the Emperor's chamber, alarms blared, but no one could tell what triggered them. Everything still looked normal, except it didn't feel normal anymore. He turned to his defense minister. Call Earth, he whispered, but there was no reply. Earth wasn't answering anymore. Captain Holt watched from her ship. Send the final notice, she said. Let them know this silence has a shape. On every Zaran screen, one final message appeared. No voice, no music, just 3 words. This is payment. And then silence again. No attacks, no messages, no orders. Just Earth's shadow across their sky, and the terrifying truth that the war had already ended before it ever began. Collapse from within it started with silence. Then came the whispers. Now, the Zaran Empire was hearing screams from within. Emperor Thale locked himself inside the command dome. Around him, holomaps blinked and flickered. Ships were disappearing. Systems were offline, but no one knew where the attacks were coming from. Because there were no attacks, there were no missiles, no explosions. Only fear, confusion, and collapse in the outer colonies. Local governors stopped responding. They shut down their ports, raised their own flags. "Earth isn't our enemy," one of them said in a leaked transmission. "Our enemy is the lie." We've been living. Captain Holt watched it unfold from deep orbit. Earth hadn't fired a single new weapon. They didn't need to. They had shown the truth, and the truth broke the Empire faster than any warhead. On Zarn Prime, soldiers refused. Orders, factories stopped producing war machines. Entire battalions turned off their targeting systems. Not out of mercy, but out of fear. They had seen what Earth didn't do. They saw how humans waited, watched, and disappeared. They saw that silence was a signal, and the signal was power, Admiral. Vale tried to hold control. He gathered the last fleet, ordered a grand offensive. But when the fleet entered orbit, their navigation failed, every ship turned, and pointed back at their own capital. The systems had been altered, and no one knew when. Earth had planted its control long before they were noticed. Inside the flagship Obsidian Spear, Admiral Vale opened a message file left behind by Earth. It wasn't a threat. It was a map of every Zarn military route, every hidden fuel base, every Emperor-class vault, all marked, all exposed, and underneath the map, one sentence: "We know your empire better than you do." He sank into his chair. There was no defense against knowledge. No weapon strong enough to erase truth. The Emperor ordered the activation of the Doomsday Array, a secret weapon buried under the northern pole of Zarn Prime. It was supposed to destroy any invading fleet within light seconds. But when they opened the launch codes, the system responded. Access denied, human override in place. Earth had already been there, already disarmed it. They had planned for the Emperor's last mistake. Just like they had planned for everything else. Across the stars, other empires watched. Some were shocked, some terrified, but none laughed, because they knew this wasn't just about the Zarn. It was a lesson. One by one, former Zarn allies turned. Neutral, then friendly, then silent. No one wanted to be next. On the lower decks of the Resolute, Earth soldiers sat calmly. They hadn't fought a battle. They hadn't lost a single man. Yet they had just ended a galactic power. This wasn't a war. One private whispered. This was a reset. Captain Holt gave the final command. "Pull back the shadow net," she said. "Let them sit in what they made." Earth ships turned silently, leaving orbit like ghosts. Not one city burned. Not one monument fell, but the Empire had already crumbled. In the weeks that followed, news spread. The mighty Zarn Empire had been defeated by silence, by preparation, by truth. And though the stars were quiet again, the fear remained, not of Earth's weapons, but of what Earth knew, and what Earth could choose to do next, because when Earth left, they didn't send peace offers, they didn't demand tribute, they left behind one message, glowing over the capital skies. You mocked us, you underestimated us, but we didn't destroy you. You did that yourselves. And then Earth was gone, but the shadows they left behind would never fade. The broadcast that changed everything for 3 days. The galaxy held its breath. The Warfleet from Earth had vanished again. No signals, no attacks, no words. Only the echo of fear that still haunted every capital, every outpost, every emperor's bedchamber. The Zarn Empire had fallen without a battle. But it wasn't just their empire that shook. The entire galaxy was now staring into the silence left behind, and wondering, what if we're next? On the broken palace steps of Zarn Prime, soldiers stood without orders. Their weapons were powered down. They looked to the sky, not for help, but for permission. But Earth gave none, And then, without warning, a signal lit up every major star. Network. It didn't come through normal frequencies. It bypassed encryption, ignored defenses, and rewrote protocols. Even planets with no satellites received it. Every screen blinked once, then showed one image. A pair of human boots, Dusty. Scarred, silent, standing on alien soil. No face, no flag, just a shadow across the ground. Then came the voice, not angry, not loud, but calm. So calm it made the blood freeze in every leader's veins. We never asked to be feared. We asked to be respected. We spoke, you laughed. We waited, you mocked. So we prepared. You taught us that silence is weakness. We learned that silence is power. The image changed. Now it showed ruins, not Earth's, but alien cities. All abandoned, all silent. Not from war, but from collapse. We don't want your empires. We don't want your crowns. We want you to remember. Because forgetting makes monsters. And monsters are loud. The screen flickered again. This time, a list of names appeared long. Endless Zarn admirals, corrupted councilmen, warlords, slave traders, hidden tyrants. Every name was real. Every name confirmed. Earth didn't fire missiles. They fired truth. Civil wars broke out across 6 systems within minutes. Old rebels rose, civilians marched, flags burned, but Earth said nothing more. They had spoken. And one message was enough. In the Galactic Council chamber, silence ruled. Representatives sat frozen. Not one dared speak against Earth, no. Not after watching an empire fall without a screen. Not after watching truth become a weapon. Back on the Resolute, Captain Holt closed the transmission file. "It's done," her officer said quietly. "Not yet," she replied. "Truth is only useful when someone remembers it." She ordered one final action. A small satellite was launched across the galaxy. It carried no weapons, no sensors. Just a signal, a reminder. Every 30 hours, it would broadcast 5 words. Simple, soft, impossible to ignore. "We are watching in silence." That satellite would orbit stars for 1,000 years. A whisper between systems, a shadow across every border, and a memory of the day the humans spoke once and never had to speak again. The broadcast was over. The fleet was gone. But fear had found a new home, not in Earth's strength, but in Earth's patience, because the worst kind of war is the one you know you've already lost, but no one tells you. They just wait, and Earth was very, very good at waiting. Ashes and lessons. The Zarn Empire no longer existed on star maps. Its borders were erased, its fleets disbanded, its name spoken only in shame. No shot had ended the empire. No grand fleet had crushed its planets. It fell because fear moved faster. Then fire, and Earth had become fear's master. In the ruins of the capital, children played in silent streets. They didn't know what a war was. They only knew that one day all the noise stopped, and a shadow passed across the sun. Those who remembered generals, governors, admirals, never forgot that shadow. Because it didn't come with fire. It came with silence and left behind only truth. Across the galaxy, the story spread in whispers. Earth had no empire, yet destroyed one. They made no demands, yet gained obedience. They asked for no tribute, yet were given respect. Other empires rewrote their military doctrines. Never underestimate a quiet enemy became the first lesson in every academy. Trade routes shifted, maps redrawn. Earth systems were left untouched, unchallenged. No one wanted to find out what happened next. On Earth, there were no celebrations, no parades, no medals, just a quiet return. The fleet came home like ghosts drifting back to their graves. Captain Holt stepped off her ship, saluted once, and vanished into silence. "What? Now?" a young officer asked. "Now," the admiral replied. "We wait again." In orbit above neutral space, the satellite still moved, broadcasting the same 5 words. We are watching in silence, and everyone listened, because silence now meant Earth, and Earth now meant judgment. Years passed, then decades. A new generation of Zarn children grew up learning Earth's history. Not the history of war, but the history of patience. In one classroom, a teacher asked, "What ended the Zarn Empire?" A student raised her hand and said, "They didn't listen." That answer echoed across systems, because the truth wasn't buried. It was floating above them in orbit, whispering to stars. A reminder that power doesn't always speak loudly. Sometimes it simply waits for you to break yourself. And Earth was still there, not ruling, not invading, just watching, quietly, completely, endlessly, because in the end, it wasn't Earth's fleet that turned the galaxy to ash. It was the lesson Earth left behind. Mocking the quiet doesn't make you strong. It only makes your fall louder.